Hello, everyone. Yes, it has definitely been a while since I've done this. I don't really have a reason or an explanation other than, maybe lack of motivation or time to create really long scripts for anything. But hopefully that'll be changing soon. I think regular weekly content could probably resume the middle of May. I know it seems like a while away, but hopefully not. But anyway, in this video, I thought I'd try something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about the latest episode of Doctor Who, Series 12, Episode 10, The Timeless Children. Now, before we get started, I just want to make it perfectly clear that I don't hate Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. It seems that if you try to discuss any flaws with the new seasons, everyone just jumps out and attacks you for being a misogynist or a sexist or against, equality and whatever. It's not the problem. When it was announced that the Doctor would be female, I was surprised by it, but I wasn't like, right, the Doctor's a woman now, I'm not watching the show. I have watched every single episode of season 11 and season 12, and overall, I feel the show doesn't have the same quality as it did with any of the episodes that are in front of you, or really any season since the revival. I can't speak entirely about the classic series because I haven't watched all of it, but in the 12 series revival since 2005, I can honestly say that season 11 and 12 are probably the worst ones. And that's not because of Jodie Whittaker. It's not because the Doctor's a woman. It's down to the writing entirely. I'm not being a fan of every episode. There have been good episodes. The first episode, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, the season 11, I think it was a really good episode. But that quality didn't maintain throughout. There was a lot of disappointing episodes, a lot of bland episodes, and there was a lot of problems that I don't think Russell T Davies or Stephen Moffat would have created when they were showrunners. Chris Chibnall is the main reason that I'm not the biggest fan of the season. Other than Bradley Walsh, Jodie Whittaker is my favourite thing about this new series. She does pretty well most of the time with what she's given, especially in season 12, where she's actually allowed to, act instead of just being like super happy all the time about everything. There were moments throughout all 12 series where the Doctor has been shown as kind of like goofy and really happy and eccentric, particularly with Matt Smith. But for every moment like that for the previous Doctors, there was a moment somewhere else where they were more serious and, more heroic. And, there were moments where these Doctors were scared of what was going on and they weren't sure. I mean, in William Hartnell's case, sometimes even cowardly to begin with. But it got better as the series went on, obviously. But the point is, through series 11 particularly, Jodie Whittaker wasn't really allowed to act properly. It wasn't until series 12 where we actually got to see some emotion that wasn't just, hi, I'm the Doctor, I'm happy all the time and I know everything. Although there was still a lot of knowing everything, which, it's done now, can't really complain about it. But we can critique it. So, anyway, let's get into the episode I'm actually reviewing. We can do a full series review at some point if anybody actually wants that. This episode did some things right, it did some things wrong, and it's changed something that people are either arguing is for the better or for the worse. I'm kind of in the for the worse category. And again, it's not because of Jodie Whittaker. It's got nothing to do with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. Any Doctor could have been here. It could have been David Tennant, who's my favourite Doctor ever, and it would still not have been a good decision. But let's get into the problem. The problem? The story. So essentially, this episode, The Timeless Children, is the third part of a three-part finale at the end of Series 12. It starts off with, I don't remember the name. It's a really long name, but the Doctor and co go back in time to the place where the story of Victor Frankenstein's monster came about, right? The actual author of the story. I thought it was a pretty decent episode. And it introduced a plot point that was introduced by Captain Jack Harkness in episode 5 of season 12, The Lone Cyberman, which I was looking forward to seeing because not all Cyberman episodes have been brilliant in the revival series. I mean, of course, we did get World Enough and Time when the Doctor Falls in season 10, which are brilliant episodes. But the Cybermen don't always get done proper justice. And I was interested to see what Chris Chibnall and gang could come up with, considering how they had butchered the Daleks in Resolution. The Lone Cyberman was actually a pretty interesting character, I would say. Like, he was different from all the other Cybermen, and you could see like the human parts of him, not just like physically, but sometimes emotionally, because he actually did have some sort of emotional range, which is different for a Cyberman, especially in the revival series. So the Lone Cyberman was a pretty cool idea. And then episode 9, the Ascension of the Cyberman, set it up really well. Like, that was another pretty good episode of season 12. Probably the best episode of series 12 is these 3 episodes. For what I don't like about Timeless Children, there are quite a lot of good moments, and it is interesting. It is engaging. It's not a boring finale. It is engaging, and it does, spark interest. But I'd argue it's not for the right reason. So, essentially, the Cyberman sees them go back in time to where the Doctor has given the Lone Cyberman what it wants, which is what Captain Jack told her not to do. But the Doctor's shown to actually have emotion, and she's really torn up about what to do. She chooses to give the Cyberman what it wants at the end of episode 8, which may have been the wrong decision. It's up in the air. But essentially, this causes a full cyber army to destroy Earth, and there are like 3 humans left. Pretty interesting story. I mean, I'm not sure if it's exactly 3. It's a very small number. And by the end of episode 9, everything's set up. The Doctor and Ryan have arrived at this place that can take them away from the Cybermen into another universe. But this is actually a portal to Gallifrey, and the Master comes out of it. And that's where episode 9 leaves off. So that's where episode 10 begins, The Timeless Children. Finally actually getting into the episode after 7 minutes. I know it's funny. But the episode begins with the Master taking the Doctor to Gallifrey and showing her what he's done. If you were looking for an explanation as to how the Master was able to single-handedly destroy all of Gallifrey, we're not given it. We are given a reason for why he did it, though, which is kind of an interesting reason, and it kind of fits the Master's kind of character. Like, it is something he would do, I guess, but see, the Master, as chaotic as he's been, particularly in Series 3, his main goal was to bring back Gallifrey. He wanted to rebuild Gallifrey on Earth in Utopia, Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords, the 3-part finale in Season 3. His goal was to bring back the Time Lords, bring back Gallifrey, etc. And then that continues in The End of Time, where that is also his goal. He then destroys the Time Lords, kind of at the end, sends them back to the Time War, because he realizes what they did to him and how they don't consider him like a pure Time Lord, but So you could say that kind of sparked him a bit, which, is fair enough. This new Master is a regeneration of John Sims' Master. I don't remember the actor who plays the new Master, but he is actually really good. We'll talk more about him in a minute. But then the Master shows the Doctor the Matrix, which is this big hub of Time Lord knowledge, essentially. And he shows her the past of the Doctor and explains the plot thread that's been going on kind of since season 11. It's called about the Timeless Child, which is something of importance up until that point, but we never knew anything about it. It's just vaguely hinted at. It's kind of like an overarching plot line, kind of like in season 3 you had the Vogt Saxon, and in season 2 you had Torchwood, season 1 Bad Wolf. It's kind of like that, but it's actually, it's not just a background thing, it's kind of present. So I guess in that case, it's more like the Pandorica from Series 5, or the Name of the Doctor for Season 7, etc. It's kind of like that. The Timeless Child gets revealed, and the Timeless Child is the Doctor. Now, I'm going to talk more about that at the end, once we've discussed the characters, the Cybermen, and all that, because that's the main point I want to talk about. That's the problem with the episode. But we'll get back to that. So the Doctor sees this, isn't happy with it, thinks the master's lying, etc. You know, the kind of things you would go through if someone told you your life is a lie, you know. The Doctor then breaks out of the Matrix by overloading it by speaking with Joe Martin's Doctor, who was again a thing in episode 5, which does get explained through this timeless child plot. Doctor gets free, sends the companions back to Earth, and then goes to destroy the Master and his new Cybermen. The new Cybermen are pretty cool, but I'm going to be honest, the first time I saw them, I burst out laughing. It's a really weird concept. The Master basically kills the Time Lords, but keeps their bodies basically on ice so they're fresh. And he uses them, converts them into Cybermen. So there are now Cybermen with the ability to regenerate, which is a cool idea. But it shocked me the first time I saw it. I burst out laughing at the idea. But it would be quite a threatening thing. Unfortunately, by the way the episode ends with one of the human characters coming back to destroy the Cybermen, the Doctor leaves, she escapes, because she's going to press the button, kind of like in Parting of the Ways, where she's going to destroy the Master and all Cybermen and herself, as the Doctor's going to destroy the Daleks and himself, but then she can't do it, so this human character in this case comes along, presses the button, and destroys Cybermen as the Doctor escapes in another TARDIS. And then the episode ends with the Doctor arriving back somewhere near her actual TARDIS, where we get a funny joke about how the Doctor cheated on her old TARDIS, which is, a bit funny. Then the Judoon randomly show up out of nowhere, capture the Doctor because she's technically a fugitive from the fugitives of the Judoon. That was terrible pronunciation of that. Fugitive of the Judoon. And then she's imprisoned, and that's where the episode ends. And we're going to get another Dalek episode as New Year's special or Christmas Day special. It's not confirmed yet, but hopefully it's better than Resolution. So anyway, that's the basic story. It's quite complicated. That's like a gross description of it. It's really just the basics of it, and you kind of have to watch it for it to make sense. But that's the basics of the plot. So now we've covered that, let's talk about certain characters from the story. So we'll start with the Doctor, who in this episode has emotions, like a lot. There's one scene I really liked where the Master and the Doctor are talking about how the Doctor wants to see her life. She wants to see the rest of it because she's just been told that she's a timeless child, and the Doctor lashes out at the Master, demanding that he tells her about her life, and the Master can't because the information is redacted. That was a really good scene, and I also like the scene where the Doctor breaks out of the Matrix. She's kind of talking to herself again, which the Doctor does from time to time. Not too much, but the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, definitely does it a lot more than any other Doctor. But she's talking to herself, and she's basically trying to overload the Matrix with all her memories, since they aren't in there. But somehow she has them even though she doesn't have them. It's a pretty good scene, and you have the Doctor Who theme playing in the background, which, a bit self-congratulatory, a bit pompous, but you know what? It made for a cool scene. And we got to see David Tennant. Always a plus. So yeah, the Doctor had pretty good characterization in this episode, good range of emotions, wasn't just happy-go-lucky all the time. There were some great moments, and I really liked the moment where she was gonna press the button. You kind of think she's gonna do it, but then you kind of know she's not gonna do it because the show has to continue. But yeah, there was some really good moments with the Doctor. Another character that was really good throughout the entire episode was the Master. He's not as good as John Sim. He's not as good as Derek Jacobi. But he's right. He's a solid third place from the Revival Master era. I've not seen enough classic episodes with the Master to actually make a judgment on any of them. I think the only ones I've seen are the 5 Doctors and the movie. I mean, I guess the movie isn't really an episode, but who cares? The Master in this episode is psychotic. It's kind of like, if you think about John Sim's Master, take the crazy element and take away the calm, calculated, collected element that he has, and you make the crazy part one whole character, and that you get this Master. He's a brilliant Master. It really does work. I think he is actually a really good Master. So the way he steals the show really here, he is probably the best character in the show. In this episode, like he has the best, shall we say, talent? I don't know, but he feels every scene he's in, he steals the show. He's psychotic. He's threatening. He has a presence. It's exactly what you'd want. And it's basically what you wanted from Spyfall, which we kind of got and kind of didn't get with Spyfall. Like there wasn't really enough because they kind of waited till the very end, so we only got to see the Master kind of in part two of Spyfall, and then with Spyfall there was other stuff going on as well. But in this episode, he's kind of like the main thing, along with the Doctor and the Cybermen, obviously. But he forms an alliance with the Cybermen, and he does a really good job of like manipulating them to change their entire plan, because the lone Cyberman has a plan to basically wipe out all of living matter in a planet. But the Master tells him that would wipe him out too, because the Cybermen are partially organic. The Cyberman then says that the lone Cyberman says that he's removed the organic parts from his new Cybermen, but he's still organic, so he'll die in the process. Basically saying Cybermen will become robots, which I like the Cybermen being just robots. It's better when they're part organic, part human, part machine. That's what the Cybermen are. That's what they were in the 10th Planet when they were first shown. That's what Cybermen are. It's better when they're like that. But the Master explains that would be a bad idea. The lone Cyberman goes along with it. The Master then betrays the lone Cyberman in perfect Master fashion, takes the particle from in the Cyberman. Well, he doesn't take the particle, he kind of like wishes it had gone off, even though it would have killed him too. And he leaves the lone Cyberman sitting there for the Doctor to find. I'm not sure why he does this other than for plot, but, basically the Master really does get a lot of good scenes in this episode. He has a great character. He's a great, presence on screen. He does steal the show entirely. On to the companions. I'm going to be honest, I've not been a big fan of the companions this season, except for Graham, played by Bradley Walsh. Mainly because Bradley Walsh is just funny. That's about it. Bradley Walsh is consistently good in every episode, pretty much. There's not really been any bad moments with Graham in the entire show. But Graham does get one heartfelt moment. He's not just there for comic relief. He gets one really emotional moment where he's saying to Yaz how Yaz is one of the other companions, in case you don't know. He's saying to Yaz how she is the bravest person and the most amazing person he has ever met. Saying that she doesn't back down from anything. She's so brave. Saying how the Doctor might have a time machine and a sonic screwdriver, and she's brave for that reason. She's brave and she has all that stuff, but you're brave just like her, but you don't have that stuff. Which is a really good moment. That was really genuine. And then Yaz responds with, you're not so bad yourself. And then her reasoning for that is because she's from Yorkshire. And I'm guessing at that moment everyone from Yorkshire just turned the TV off, because that's, who wants to be spoken to like that? But yeah, I think that was just, it's kind of a similar situation to that episode where Graham is talking to the Doctor about how he had cancer and he's scared of getting the cancer back, and the Doctor's like, I'm awkward, socially awkward, I don't really know what to say. It's kind of like they want to set up an emotional scene, but then Chris Chibnall comes along and says, no, we're not doing that. No emotion, just funny. It'll be funny, that's what it'll be. Then Yaz kind of doesn't do anything in the story, and Ryan doesn't really do anything in the story. They're kind of just there because they were there in the last episode, so they kind of have to be there. The companions never really feel like they have any development. They never really feel like they've progressed any as a character. They never really feel like they've got anything to do. They kind of just feel like they're there for status quo, and in Bradley Walsh's case, to be hilarious and, good. So, now we've talked about the companions a bit, on to the Cybermen. The Cybermen plot is really good throughout this episode. This is a good Cybermen episode. If you take away the Timeless Child stuff and just have this be a Cyberman-centered episode with the Master having the Time Lord Cybermen and the regular Cybermen and the lone Cyberman, this would have been really good episode. Would have been definitely a contender for one of the really good finales. Would it be any finale that's in front of us? No, not really. Although, I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched the finale of season 26. This is just there because, it looks cool, and I needed something else to sit there. Everything else here has a reason, though, but that one's just there because it looks pretty good. But, Parting of the Ways is a brilliant finale. Doomsday is a brilliant finale. Last of Time Lords is a brilliant finale. Journey's End is brilliant. Pandorica opens Big Bang. End of Time. Day of the Doctor isn't really a finale, but it's a good episode anyway. William Hartnell's finale, The 10th Planet, isn't here. I do have it, but I didn't bring it down. It is a great episode. But this episode just doesn't reach the level of greatness purely because of the Timeless Child stuff. But the Cybermen, they've got a really cool new design. Like, it's kind of like combining the classic Cybermen, like kind of like the John Pertwee era Cybermen, with the Series 7 Cybermen, the Nightmare and Silver ones. Like, the ones that kind of look a bit like Iron Man. Kind of like trying to combine those two into one. I think they look pretty decent, although this might be the last time we see them. Basically, with the Cybermen, they're basically the first race apparently exists on the Time Lords to have Gallifrey as their own, and they're really proud about that because Gallifrey's like pretty big deal. Let's be honest. So they're pretty excited to have that, and the Lone Cybermen sends the entire ship into the portal to Gallifrey. And the Cybermen are they're a really big screen presence. They have a really they're really threatening throughout the entire episode. And you get a proper sense of fear from them. Unlike, certain episodes like I had it and then I forgot. But there are some episodes where the Cybermen don't exactly feel really threatening. This one I feel like they do. And especially when you bring the Time Lord Cybermen into it, which we'll get onto now. The idea of a Cybermen dying and just coming back to life right there and then is pretty incredible. Like, just imagine that for a second. Imagine a Cyberman you had to kill 13 times. That's a pretty powerful threat, if you ask me. Their design was kind of it combined the Cyberman design that we have, this new Series 12 design, with Time Lord robes and Time Lord headgear. They kind of look weird, they kind of look cool, they kind of look hilarious. I don't know how to describe them. They're just a bit, I don't know how to describe them really, but they are pretty. The idea alone is a pretty cool concept, and it's quite refreshing to see something new like that with the Cybermen, because for a while now they've just been just kind of not quite robots, but just disposable robot army kind of throughout a lot of episodes. Like Nightmare and Silver showed this off in a way. I think it's an okay episode. I like the bits of Nightmare and Silver where you have the Doctor versus the Cyber Controller. But the bits where it's just the Cybermen going around hey, we're Iron Man Cybermen now. We're a big disposable army, yeah. But this one, while they did feel like a disposable army, those Time Lord Cybermen surrounding the Master really felt threatening because there's only 6 or 7 of them in the episode. But they feel more threatening than the entire Nightmare and Silver army. Because they can regenerate, and they're probably more powerful as well, although we don't really get to see them in action. So now, talked about everything in the episode except for the Timeless Child. Oh, let's get into this. So, a long time ago, before the Time Lords, before Gallifrey was a real civilization, there was this woman called Tech-Tayun, who was a Gallifreyan and wanted to travel in space. So she built a rickety old spaceship and travelled around the galaxy. She came to this place called the Gateway, which is on a planet somewhere we don't really get told. And she finds this child sitting at one edge of the gate. It's she's a little she's a small child, maybe about 5 or 6-ish. She's a girl, obviously, and she's I don't know, she's I think she's Indian, but I don't really know. And Tech-Tayun, this woman, adopts this child because they seem to be, alone, and there's nobody else anywhere in sight. So this child is playing with some other Gallifreyan child. They're playing on a cliffside, which is very, very safe. And the child, Tech-Tayun's child, falls off the cliff to her death, or so it would seem. This girl, who is not Gallifreyan, not a Time Lord, or anything, can regenerate. Okay. We'll get back to why this is a problem once we're done talking about Timeless Child plot. So Tech Taeyoon, this woman who just got introduced now, has, to my knowledge, no presence in lore up to this point. Mr. Chibnall just decided to create her, even though there was a perfectly good character to be the person to discover regeneration, but we'll get back to him. She then experiments on this child who has regenerated into, like, a black boy. Like, it's just like the Doctor and the Time Lords now seem to have the ability to just change their gender, their race, anything really. Like, it's not a problem. It's just, I mean, I'm not bothered by, like, if a black man plays Doctor, then I don't care. If they're good for the part, then they can play it. But we get a cycle of her experimenting on the child, and the child goes from all different forms: male, female, black, white, etc., etc. And eventually, she feels like she's cracked the code of regeneration, costing the child several regenerations in the process. She then tests the regeneration energy on herself and regenerates into Black Man, who then becomes the founding father of the Gallifreyan High Council, builds the Citadel, which is the big glass dome thing that is famous with Gallifrey, and becomes the president essentially, and allows any Gallifreyan within the Citadel to have the ability to regenerate, but with a natural, with a handicap almost, that a Time Lord can only regenerate 12 times, and thus the Time Lords were born. That's the story of the Time Lords. Problem is, this was already covered a long time ago in lore. A character called Rassilon, who modern fans will know Rassilon from the End of Time as the president who, describes everything to the Master and the Doctor and everything. He's a guy with basically, he's got the staff and the white diamond, and he has, the rip-off Infinity Gauntlet. Sorry, but I mean, it's just a big gauntlet on his left hand that does stuff. And then he uses, and then Rassilon basically, essentially, in old lore, Rassilon creates regeneration with another Time Lord called Omega. But Chris Chibnall has just seemingly gone and ignored Rassilon. He has just created this woman called Tech Taeyoon for whatever reason I can't explain. I don't know why they just decided, this character Rassilon. We've got a character here that any classic fan will know, because Rassilon's pretty prevalent in the classic series, and modern fans will know from the End of Time. But let's just create a new character instead. I don't like how they've broken the lore here. That's not the only way they break the lore, trust me. There's more lore breaking, but I liked Rassilon as a character. I thought the idea of him being this all-powerful Time Lord who created regeneration and found the entire Citadel because of that. I thought it was a really cool idea. But now we've just, retconned that. Now I have this person called Tech Taeyoon, which makes Rassilon's appearances... Sorry about that, the camera keeps being a pain in the neck. But now Rassilon's character has much less impact. Whenever you see him now in the classic series, or in the modern series with the End of Time, and I'm pretty sure it's Rassilon in the episodes of... Hellbent for Peter Capaldi, and in Day of the Doctor over there with Matt Smith and David Tennant and John Hurt. Rassilon now doesn't have that much of a presence because, he's just now a powerful Time Lord warrior. He's not this god among Time Lords. He's just a guy now, which is unfortunate because I really liked the character of Rassilon, but this episode does more to destroy the lore than just that. So, that's the story of the Timeless Child. And then we get, what happened to the child? And then the Master's like, lol, guess what? It's the easiest plot twist in history. We all saw it coming the minute the Timeless Child was a thing. You're the Timeless Child, Doctor! That's right, the Doctor is now an infinitely old, magical, immortal being that can regenerate an infinite amount of times just because Chris Chibnall said so. Ugh. I'm not a fan of it. It's not just because it breaks the lore and it means William Hartnell isn't the first Doctor anymore. Honestly, I don't like that would be a change, but that on its own wouldn't be enough. The idea is the Doctor is now somewhat of a god. And if you've watched any of the modern series, I don't know how it is in the classic series, but I doubt it's much different. If you watch the modern series, you know the Doctor hates to be perceived as a god. Think about it. Think about the sound of drums when he's talking to the Master on the phone, and the Master says, "You must have been like God." The Doctor is visibly angry and upset at this notion. And then in Parting of the Ways, you get the same thing where Christopher Eccleston is upset and, clearly annoyed because he knows he's done things he knows that the Doctor has done things that are, terrible. He's done terrible things. He's killed all the Time Lords and the Daleks at that point before the Doctor came along and, changed that. But the Doctor hates being an omnipresent God character. It feels like the Doctor is now doing what they can because they should. Not because they can. It feels like they're just, saving people because it's their job, because they're a god. And I don't like that. I think back to The Doctor Falls with Peter Capaldi, where the Doctor explains why he does what he does. He says he does what he does because it's right, because it's decent, and above all, it's kind. Now it's like, I do what I do because it's right, because it's decent, and above all, I'm a god, there's no threat to me, I can instantly generate la-di-da-di-da. I'm not a fan. I'm really, really not a fan of that at all. The Doctor being a god is not something that I ever wanted. The Doctor always feels like this guy or this girl, whatever, who's passing by, helping people that need helping because he's a good man. Because he's just because. I like the idea of a Doctor being a passerby who, yes, gets into trouble and yes, helps people, but he's not a god. And then when you have Matt Smith in The Pandorica Opens as the Big Bang, well, mainly The Pandorica Opens, you get the notion that he's the most deadly warrior in the galaxy and needs to be stopped, and that he's tearing apart the universe. And that's why he's put in the Pandorica. The Doctor doesn't know that he's a god there. He knows he's, stopped people. He knows he's fought evil, and he knows he's killed people. But they're not calling him he's not a god there. Now the Doctor knows they're essentially immortal, have had infinite lives, and can have infinite more lives to continue. The Doctor never felt like a god before. Now it's just gonna be like, right, I'm the Doctor, here I am. Who cares? I'm just, I'm a god, I can do anything. Nothing's a threat anymore because it took away the fundamental part of the Doctor. The Doctor didn't leave Gallifrey because they're a god and they have to save people because there's no threat. They left Gallifrey because they wanted to. They wanted to see the universe. They wanted to help people. But now it's just like, I'm a god, I've existed forever. Doctor's not even Gallifreyan anymore. So it's not just Doctor Who now, it's Doctor Where Are You From now. I wasn't a fan. I know some people might like the idea of the Doctor being the original basis for regeneration, but it's not for me. I don't like it. I was not a fan of that. And it's a shame, because the rest of the episode was really good for the most part. There were a lot of things to like about this episode. The Master's acting was brilliant. The great heartfelt scene with Graham. The Cybermen. The Lone Cyberman. The Time Lord Cybermen. It was all so good, and I really hope there's a point here where somewhere down the line it's revealed that the Master tricked the Doctor into believing this was true so they would snap or something. Like they wanted that to be the plan, and then they wanted the Doctor to basically take the Lone Cybermen, destroy themselves and herself, so the Doctor would be out of the picture or something, like just so that they can retcon this because the Doctor shouldn't be a god that's lived forever. They should be a man or a woman or, a blade of grass that has walked the universe, helped people, caused trouble, but not a god, not someone who's walked the infinite universe, not someone that can live forever. I mean, I know something like this had to be done so that the show could continue because they've already broken the lore point of the fact that the Doctor has a limited amount of regenerations in Time of the Doctor, where they get given a new regeneration cycle. But then, what was the point of that? Why did they get a new regeneration cycle if they can infinitely regenerate? There was no reason for that. The Time of the Doctor is now pointless. The Doctor could have regenerated at any point he wanted to, he just didn't know. The Time of the Doctor is ruined now. And I was one of the people who really liked that episode. That was one of my favourite Matt Smith episodes, and now I'll look at it and go, right, this quest Doctor's gone on to save these people, he's gotten old, he knows he's dying, but wait a minute, he's immortal, he can regenerate infinitely, so now it doesn't matter that he's going to die, because he'll just regenerate. And I know he does get new regenerations, and that's a great moment. But he thinks he's going to die, and he chooses to spend hundreds of years helping this one little town on this one little planet. It's such a Doctor thing to do. But not because he's a god, it was because he thought it was right. And he just did it out of the goodness of his heart. But no, now it's like, there was no threat at all, he could just regenerate infinitely. Or she, or they, or whatever, I don't care. Doctor can be whatever they want to be. That's hardly the biggest problem right now anyway. Like, I don't care. If this had been a David Tennant story, I would have hated it just as much. Like, it's got nothing to do with Jodie Whittaker. It's got nothing to do with the fact the Doctor's a female. Any actor, any actress, anybody playing the role. This was just not good. And it's a shame because the rest of the episode actually really was. But does it ruin the Doctor entirely? Does it spoil the entire legacy of the show? No. Because while yes, they may be infinite now, there were some good episodes where the Doctor didn't know that they were infinitely going to live. And the Time of the Doctor is one of the episodes that isn't entirely it's not completely spoiled because Matt Smith's Doctor doesn't know about any of this. We, the audience, now know it, but Matt Smith's Doctor didn't know it, and he genuinely thought he was going to die, and he stayed there on Trenzalore for hundreds of years just because he had the right. Just because he felt he had to, just because he wanted to. I don't know. So, well, this is way longer than I thought it was going to be. So let's finish this because I'll just end up repeating myself. In conclusion, Jodie Whittaker's acting was phenomenal. The Master's acting, I can't remember his name, was phenomenal. Cyberman plot was brilliant. The Time Lord Cybermen was a really threatening idea, and I hope we see them again. The cliffhanger was really good, left me wanting more. The Timeless Child stuff, I hope, is retconned. I hope it was a scenario by the Master to trick the Doctor for some reason, because I hate the idea of the Doctor being an infinitely omnipresent, immortal being that can never die, because it's not good. It goes against everything the Doctor ever was. And yeah, I mean, some people are complaining about the fact that the Doctor started off as a little black girl. That's the least of our problems. That's the least of my problems with the show. I don't care what gender the Doctor is, I don't care what sexuality, what race, what anything. I don't care. And it seems that Chris Chibnall doesn't care for the lore of the show, or the legacy of the show, because he had something really good and he spoiled it with this predictable, awful, dreadful, character-destroying twist that I can only hope once he has left the show, hopefully it'll be soon because he's really not doing a good job with any of it. Hopefully someone will come along and say, right, let's make a new plot line where that Timeless Child stuff was just a retcon. We're retconning it because it makes no sense and it destroys the Doctor. It was a plot by the Master to try and trick the Doctor into killing themselves. Or something, I don't know. And it could be so similar to write a way out of this, and I really hope somebody does it because it's not a good idea. And then you could say, Joe Martin's Doctor was just a creation of the Master, because the Master can, influence the minds of people. He could have just, created this character, taken, implanted the memory of the Doctor in this Ruth character, who could just end up being a regular human being who has the memory of the Doctor. He had a TARDIS in Spyfall. He could have made it look like a police box, buried it in the ground, and made Joe Martin's Doctor go dig it up. There's ways around this. There's ways to fix this. But will they be taken? Honestly, I doubt it. Chibnall doesn't seem to care what the fans say, what anybody says. He just seems to do whatever the hell he wants to do, because the BBC aren't going to cancel the show anyway. I don't want the show to be cancelled. I don't want it to come to that. I just want some decent writing. And there was some good episodes in season 12. I thought Spyfall was pretty good. I thought Nikola Tesla episode was good. I thought Future of the Dune was really good, up until they introduced Joe Martin's Doctor, which, I didn't understand at the time. I don't like the other idea of another Doctor existing somewhere in the timeline. Parallel universe Doctor would have been the best, because then it could just be like, right, in some other universe, in some other plane of existence where everything is different, the Doctor, in between his, 5th or 6th regeneration, let's just say in between 5 and 6, he regenerated into Joe Martin, and that was it. So easy to fix this mess. But will they? I doubt it.